Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Niette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Niette, INSagency.com.
CNC Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, CNC provides patient-centered care for your entire family. CNC Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. As we've been doing over the last few weeks, we are going to take a look at some of the great sports writers, athletes, those who have contributed to the media, those who have been big time players in sports here in Louisiana. And today is no different. Award-winning journalist, accomplished writer, and a guy that's on my radio show all the time. Ron Higgins joins us on the program. Ron, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, coming down from Baton Rouge. Ron is based out of Baton Rouge. He's in New Orleans all the time, though. But thank you for coming down to the show. We've been doing radio together forever.
I've been forever. Like I can now put a face.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. So it's
forever. And of course, Ron and I was talking when I asked him to come on the show. He goes, "Oh, I watched the show. I'm so glad you invited me." I'm like, "Wait, what?" Well, you need to be a regular guest on the program.
At least you didn't say, "I didn't realize you were that tall," because people who read me, they go,
right.
"I didn't realize you were that tall." I said, "My column head is this big. How would you know?"
Well, again, I knew you were a ball player. I knew you played basketball, so I figured you'd be tall.
Yeah.
I figured you'd be tall. But and you are. He still is tall. We'll get him to stand up in the halftime. No, we won't. All right, let's get started. First of all, congratulations. Selected as one of the inductees into the Louisiana Sports Writers into Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. You're also again, what is it? Is the distinguished
Service Award for a journalist. I just like the writers' wing of the Louisiana Sports Hall.
The writers' wing of
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, and if you would, before we get started, tell us a little bit about when they called. Were you expecting it? Tell us, because again, this is a great honor.
Yeah, it was. I was stunned. You know, I moved back to Baton Rouge probably like 10, 11 years ago. I mean, I worked in Memphis mostly for 30 years, and then some in a couple of years, a year and a half in Mobile when I covered the Saints in Ditko, which was a trip, and then moved back to Memphis from Mobile. I replaced myself in Memphis. It never replaced me. But when I went back to Memphis, I like, guys, I have like 3,000 emails. You never turn my emails off? You know, no, we knew you were coming back, but they called me. It was. I think about it, just kind of tearful thing. But they called me on December 22nd, and that's the day my dad died. 1968, 45 years old.
Okay.
And it was like, when they called me that day, and they didn't know that he died that day. It's just like, it was like he was telling me, "Hey, you know,
yes,
good job." You know,
yes,
and I'm still stunned about it. It's a great class with Drew Brees and Simone Augustus, and Perry Clark is one of my favorite humans in the world. So yeah, it's just I'm just still stunned by it. I can't wait for it to happen in June.
Right.
In Natchitoches. Anybody's ever not been to the Hall of Fame and Sports Hall of Fame in Natchitoches? It's an unbelievably great standalone building. I know they have some plans to redo it, more interactive stuff. But when you walk through there and you look at the athletes that came through the state coaches, you just go, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. But for those that want to know more, the induction ceremony will kick off on June the 20th. And of course, on the 22nd will be the induction ceremony. So again, there'll be a youth clinic. There'll be 3 days of festivities, including a couple receptions, a Friday night Riverbank concert in Natchitoches. And of course, if you want to find out more, go to LASportsHall.com for the website. All right, you started to tell us a little about your background. I want to go back to your real early years because you have been around sports. You've been around sports writing. You've been around LSU for most of your life, right?
Right. Yeah. Really.
So tell us about your dad, because again, I'm sure he was a great influence on you.
Yeah, he was. I mean, whether he knew it or not. Right. My dad, Carl Ace Higgins, was sports information director at LSU from like 52, 53 to 1968 when he died. He was Billy Cannon's SID. So he got a Heisman Trophy. He was Jerry Stovall's SID, just barely missed a second Heisman Trophy. But what influenced me, it was a great childhood because one thing, I was always at an LSU sporting event he was doing. And in football season, after the game, he'd go up in the press box. But on Sundays, he'd go in his office to write the release for the next season, the next game. And so my brother and I, his office was in the stadium. We got the back door. We were on the field, right. And so we were on kicking field goals on the field, like the night after a game. And that's when they had the hedges along behind the stadium, and they had all the game jerseys. They washed them. They were drying on top of the hedges. But it was a great deal. But we'd find a golf cart somewhere in the stadium with a key in it, and we'd go race up and down the ramps to find Coke machines that were still on. We'd drink ourselves sick. Right. But it was a great childhood. I mean, basketball games. I mean, when Maravich came along and saw every game he played. My dad died, I think, right at the start of his junior year, but I still went to the games. But my dad was he just loved what he did, and he loved helping the media. He never sat down during football games. Like I always spot him. He would be pacing the press box. Yeah. Always checking on media. But how I got into it is kind of crazy. During the summer, he would moonlight at the Morning Advocate, then the Morning Advocate. Yes. And they would have a high school football section they put out in August. It was like massive. And so he would go in there and people would schools would send questionnaires in, and he'd type stories. Well, I went with him. I was like 7, 8 years old. I'd go with him on summer, like 3 nights a week. And so I was up there with, in the sports department with Bud Montet and tickets to all those guys. And typical sports department, the guys Bud smoking a cigar, right. And there's no, and so I started learning how to type with 2 fingers and a thumb, which I still do. When I was 8 years old, Bud Montet comes up to me and goes, "Do you think, look, they're going to bring in some like American Legion score and Breck softball scores on the sheet, and there's some highlights on it. You think he can write me 8 paragraphs?" And so 8 years old? Yeah, 8 years old. 8 years old. Yeah, 8 years old. So I said, okay. So I wrote it, and that was my start. And then I was 13 or 14. Ted Castillo goes, the prep editor. He goes, "Do you think you can go out and cover a game? I mean, I never driver's license." He goes, "Can your mother take you to cover a game?" Your mother take you? Yeah. I said, "Yeah." And so I said, "Okay." So I went and covered like the Baker Jamboree, Baker High School outside of Baton Rouge. And I remember this was so funny. I walk in a locker room after the game, and the coach looks at me. He didn't know who I am. He goes, "We need some more towels." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "We need some more towels." I'm like, "I'm not your manager." He goes, "Well, who are you?" I said, "I'm Ron Higgins with the Morning Advocate. I'm covering the game." "No, you're not. You're not a sports writer." I said, "Yes, I am." He goes, "Well, they asked me a question." I said, "Okay, the first half, you ran the ball a lot. You ran really well. You got a lead. The second half, you started throwing the ball. Was it because you wanted to work on something? Or did you feel like defense dictated?" He goes, "You're a sports writer." I said, "I told you I was." So now, what age again? 13. 14, yeah. 13. And so you were younger than some of the guys that were in the locker room then? Probably so. Yeah, okay. Yeah, mostly, yeah. And so I did that all during high school and stuff. A lot of times in my high school basketball games, I'd play the game, and then before I took a shower, I put my warm-ups on, I'd go to the coach's office and call the game into the newspaper because somebody wasn't there to cover it. So that's what I've done all my life, and it's been great. It's wonderful to know what you want to do all your life, and you've been able to do it for 45 years, and you've been able to cover the greatest sporting events ever. I mean, and I loved living in Louisiana and working in Baton Rouge, but the best thing for me was to moving to Memphis, because I got to cover the NBA, I got to cover the Super Bowls, I got to cover 3 Olympics, I got to cover all these events that probably in Baton Rouge I wouldn't have had a chance to do. But when I got a chance to come back and they called me, I was like, well, yeah, I would love to come home. You never think you're going to go home.
Right.
But when you do, it's like, wow, it's awesome.
Now, where did you go to high school?
Baton Rouge High.
Baton Rouge High.
Yeah.
Sports you played?
Played basketball.
Played basketball?
Yeah, played basketball at Baton Rouge High.
Right. Now, were you on the school newspaper? Because you already worked with the Advocate.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't do the school newspaper or yearbook. It's the same thing. Like when I was, I didn't really write for the LSU regularly. I was working for the Advocate at that point, doing correspondence work. And I was working in sports information for Paul Manasseh.
Right. Oh, at LSU?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I tell people, they go, did you graduate from LSU? I said, no, I graduated from the Paul Manasseh School of Journalism. He was just a wonderful man, just a great mentor. And he put a lot of responsibility on me. This is when they didn't have a lot of assistants. So a lot of the Olympic type sports or minor sports, I was the women's basketball SID, the women's gymnastics SID, the men's gymnastics SID, and the wrestling SID. And I created the first press guides for women's basketball and for women's gymnastics. So
at what age?
I was 20.
That's amazing.
And so, I mean, they didn't have a press guide with like a record book, so I researched all that and did that. So it's particularly meaningful, like last year when they won the national title in basketball, and a couple of weeks ago when they won the gymnastics. It just, I just remember how hard Dee Dee Bro had to survive just to get that done.
Yes.
And I was just like, so many years they got close, and so many years the last event was the beam. And when they won last week, the beam was the one they had to get on. When they said they were going to the beam, I almost died, like, oh my, not again. But they were right and they won it. Right.
I want to ask you about growing up as the son of an SID at LSU, and you mentioned some of the great players that you got a chance to be able to see. You and I have talked about Maravich on the radio show. You mentioned Billy Cannon. You mentioned Jerry Stovall. Let's start with Maravich first. What was that like?
I try to tell people he's the best basketball player I've ever seen, and people don't. I got a little bit peeved when the whole Caitlin Clark stuff was going on. They said he's breaking Maravich's record. I'm thinking, okay, she's breaking Maravich's record. Okay, I know there's obvious stuff. There's no three-point line. No shot clock. I said, does Caitlin Clark get the hell beat out of her every game like Maravich did? The defenses were just like, we're not going to let you score. We're just going to beat the hell out of you. Defend. I mean,
and people don't really remember or realize that, right?
Every game, people, Pete wasn't, built skinny, and they would just kill him every game. And the thing, and I said, I wonder if Caitlin Clark ever walked out of a game and she scored 35 like Maravich would, and the crowd would say, man, Pete just didn't have it tonight. I said, imagine having to score 40 or more a game, every game you're out there for your team to have a chance to win. But I try to tell people also, said, it wasn't the scoring. It was the fast breaks and the creativity. Right. And every fast break was an adventure, like, oh man, what's he gonna do now? And that was the draw of him. And he's the only guy, I guess, everybody has a sports idol, and he's the only guy I ever had, and I got to spend a day with him.
What was that like?
It was awesome. I was working for the Shreveport Journal, and I came down, and he was at the Special Olympics for one day, and he was great. He was like this clinic in the field house.
Was he still playing at that time?
No, he retired.
He retired from
he retired. He disappeared for a couple of years, and he came out. And just it was so good to see him just connect with people, because it was. I think it was Curry Kirkpatrick wrote. It was never easy being Pete Maravich.
It's true.
It was
almost kind of a recluse because of it, right?
Yeah.
Shied away from people.
Yeah, and once he came out, and found God, found religion, it was just a great guy to be around. I remember that day, and just following him around. I was like almost in awe, but it was just great to be with him. I remember he was telling kids, okay, he goes. Somebody said, he goes, okay, I haven't played very much basketball, but I'm going to try to go around from corner to corner and shoot. And he shot like 10 straight shots. None of them even touched the goal, just to win the net. Then he ended up by spinning the ball on his fingers up and knocking it in. Everybody went crazy.
Right.
best I've ever seen. But it was funny when he got to LSU. My dad goes, I always say my dad was such a great judge of talent. He goes, he goes, when I got to do basketball, coach, Press Maravich. He goes, I said, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, he's got a son that plays. And I said, oh. He goes, how is he? He goes, man, I looked at him. He's pretty skilled. I don't know if he's any good or not. That was so good.
Right.
But he's the best I've ever seen. Right. I mean, he just. I was so lucky to see every home game he played. And
that's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. We talk about this on the radio. He saw every home game, right?
Yeah.
And what are some of the things some memories that again, that still are like it was yesterday when you think about Maravich and you think about some of the games at the old Cow Palace, right?
Yeah, the Cow. First of all, the Cow Palace also had that nice whiff of cow manure coming from the barns blowing in, and had these big horse flies that would be flying around. I mean, they come buzzing in. But it's like, I remember, like, I don't think he did it with the varsity, but his freshman year, he would like get bored in games. And I found this like he may have done it as a sophomore a little bit. He would get bored from like shooting regular jump shots. So he'd back out to like 30, 35 feet and shoot two-handed set shots and just nail it. I remember those. I remember a fast break, he came down, he threw a behind the back pass, and it accidentally hit his heel, and he kicked back to the guy on the right, and he laid it up. And he acted like it was no, like it was supposed to work that way. But it's just, I just remember every game just having to carry the team, and you know, that was his role, and and just coming out, and I try to tell people go, well, I mean, look at all the shots he took. I said, do you know how hard it is to get off all the shots he took in a game? Right. I think he averaged like, what, 40 shots, maybe just around there, 38 shots a game. I said, do you know how hard that is just to average getting 38 shots a game? So don't tell me like he took a bunch of shots. I said, he shot in the mid-40s in field goal percentage. And then he'd have games where he'd go to the foul line a ton. He never missed foul shots. But again, it was just like, you know, and of course the game where he broke the record with Oscar Robertson. Right. The thing I remember most about that was crazy, was that Bob Scarce, a guy from WAP, the old beachcomber, more of an outdoor guy, he decides, like, right in the middle of the, you know, they stopped the game, and he was going to get an interview with Maravich right there on the court before Maravich keeps looking at the clock like, you know, we've got time to play. Right. He kept asking him questions, but it was everybody wanted to stop him. You know, I know people down here when they saw him play at the Loyola Field House, and he didn't, behind the ABA three-point line, he just killed it. I think it was like 22 of 30 that night. Playing Tulane with Harold Sylvester down here. He's the best I've ever seen, and I tell people, if you get bored watching today's basketball, just go to YouTube and Google Pete Maravich highlights and go find them. Yeah. But I remember Isaiah Thomas talking to him, and he goes, I think in the All-Star game here, and he goes, man, Pete Maravich is my favorite player. I said, what? How? He goes, everybody, we went on the playground, we all want to be Pete Maravich. I said, we come down, we shoot that fall away, and as soon as we shoot, we start running to the other end like he used to, you know. And the amount of people he influenced later on is unbelievable.
He really is. And of course, I got a chance to see him a little bit at LSU, you know, as a young child. But growing up in New Orleans as a teenager, Jazz comes in '74. Yeah. My entire high school years, my teenage years was again watching him at the Superdome, Loyola Fieldhouse, Municipal Auditorium.
Yeah, that's unreal.
He was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go to Jazz games when they got to the Superdome, right? But it was unbelievable. And people just don't.
There's no concept. If you weren't there, you didn't see it. Yeah. You could hear stories about it, but again, he was so far ahead of his time.
Oh yeah.
In every way. Shooting, passing, his court vision.
It's a self-made player. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, there was some natural talent, but how do you throw blind passes? Well, you get in a gym at the YMCA and you look at a spot on the wall and you do this, throw 100 passes, you know, and then you create passes. And nobody realized the work he put in to be that good and to be that creative.
Right. You have worked at a lot of different papers in your career. Shreveport Times, Shreveport, again, obviously you're with the Shreveport Journal right now?
Yeah, that was the original Journal, now I'm back with the
Baton Rouge
Journal.
Journal. Baton Rouge Advocate, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Picayune here in New Orleans. The Commercial Appeal up in Memphis, Mobile Press Register, Jackson Clarion Herald, Tiger Details, Tiger Rag, Tiger Magazine, Tiger Rag Magazine, TigerRag.com. When did you go to, your first job was with the Advocate. What was your next job?
Okay, my first job actually was with Tiger Rag Magazine. Newspaper, yeah.
Okay.
I'll ask you.
Were you at LSU then?
I just got out of LSU, graduated in 79.
Graduated in 79, right.
79. So I worked there till like April of 1980 when they came in and told me, they said, we're going to have to let you go. I said, why? He goes, well, we ran out of money to pay you. I said, why? He goes, well, we spent all our money on our promotional budget. I mean we spent all our money on flippy flyers. I said, what are flippy flyers? I said, they're like these pieces of cloth like Frisbees and had a Tiger Rag logo. I said, so basically you spent money on that. But it was the best thing ever happened. The Shreveport Times hired me, and they gave me a lot of duties. I covered LSU, but I covered all the colleges. And I even covered the Cowboys. Right. It was a good deal. Then I switched to the Journal, the afternoon paper, because Gannett had just started USA Today, and they owned the Shreveport Times, and the space was shrinking, and I loved the way the Journal wrote. I did that. I came back to Baton Rouge for a year and spent a year here. Kind of left because the manship owned LSU, the Advocate, and I just felt like anytime you wrote anything remotely critical of LSU, you got called on the carpet for it, and I just like that wasn't what I wanted to do. I mean, that wasn't me. So then going to Memphis for, for 30 years, but it was split in two deals. But
what years?
November 1984. Right. 83 into like 1996, and 96 to the end of 98. or the end of 97. No, end of 98, I was in Mobile, and then I went back to Memphis all the way until I went to Kingdom Times Picayune. Like 2012 or 13, something like that.
So in Memphis, we were talking earlier, you got a chance to cover a lot.
Absolutely.
I mean, again, it really was where everything kind of took off for you. Again, Final Fours, right? Right. Okay. USFL football.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
All right. Olympics.
Yeah, three or four Olympics.
70 bowl games.
Yeah.
NBA Finals.
Yep.
7 national championship games.
Yep.
12 NBA playoff series. 3 NBA All-Star games. 20 PGA Tour. Stops, tour events, and then a heavyweight championship fight. Tyson Lewis, right?
That was like
talk about it.
It was okay. The fight was supposed to be like I think in either in LA or New York, and Tyson and Lewis Tyson was crazy, and
where was that fight at?
The Pyramid, the old Pyramid.
Old Pyramid,
which is now a Bass Pro Shop.
Right, it is.
Yeah. But they got in a fight, maybe in some pre-publicity deal. I think that's when Tyson told Lewis, "I'm gonna eat your children."
Yes.
And so nobody would sanction the fight, and so finally, this guy in Tennessee said, "Well, I'll sanction. Tennessee's going to sanction it. We'll have it in the Pyramid," and so. I got assigned to Lennox Lewis, which was great, and I went to spend about a week and a half, 2 weeks in Poconos at his camp. Got to know Manny Stewart real well, his manager, which was just a good human being. But he was excited to go to Memphis because he loved barbecue. So when he got to Memphis, I'll take him to different barbecue places. He'd rate them. But Lennox Lewis, but remember the top fight, Manny Stewart told me, he goes, Lennox is going to beat the hell out of Mike Tyson. I said, really? I said, how? He goes, I'm not going to tell you yet, but he is. And I think Lennox knocked him out in the 6th, 7th round, but like about the 4th round, Manny Stewart tells Lewis, Lewis has been killing him. He goes, finish him. And Lewis goes, no, I want to beat him up some more before he knocked him out.
Mike Tyson, he's going to beat up some more.
Yeah. So afterwards, I said, Manny, tell me why we were able to connect so much. He goes, we studied Tyson. He said Tyson's was great. He's great at dodging punches with his head. I said, so what I worked on with Lennox is I had Lennox start to throw a punch and stop it right here, and then Tyson moved his head. Lennox would come through and hit him. And I said, that's brilliant. I said, how'd you come up with this? He goes, we started trying that in workouts because Tyson's great bobbing and weaving.
Yes.
And he said, so we timed it out, and I said, wow, that's pretty smart, man. He goes, I usually figure out a game plan on everybody, but Lennox was just a sweetheart of a guy, great guy to deal with. When I saw Ocean's 11, when Lennox and Manny were in Ocean's 11, it brought back a lot of good memories.
Yes.
But it was a crazy night in Memphis. I remember all the celebrities came in. I remember Bruce Willis was there. I'm standing next to me like a little short guy.
Yes.
I'm thinking, you saved the Nakatomi building? You? I got to cover something that I never thought I'd get to cover, heavyweight fight. And but my favorite thing of all to cover were the NBA playoffs every year.
Why? Because you grew up as a basketball fan, and a basketball player?
Yeah, basketball player. And it's the level of intensity just ratchets up. I remember talking to some guys in the Grizzlies, the guy named Tony Allen, who's like a defensive player of the year one time.
I remember, yeah.
And I said, Tony, describe the difference between playoffs and regular season. He goes, let me put it like this. He goes, you play playground basketball, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, remember it got to be game point, and if you got beat, you're going to sit down for like a while. He goes, you know how in that game point, everybody's grabbing and fouling, and he goes, that's the NBA playoffs, every possession.
Yes.
And he was right. It's just,
right.
I just loved it because it was, a series. You saw teams make adjustments,
Right.
and just the personalities of it. I mean, I just love covering the playoffs, and I still love watching the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's just as each round progresses, you see the intensity go up. And it's just there's nothing like it. I mean, you go to a college game, you go to an NBA game, it's totally different. Because the NBA game, at least 8 times a game, you're going to see something happen that you go, oh my God, that was unreal. In college, you don't see that because they whistle everything.
Right. It's amazing. USFL, what was that like?
Oh, that was so cool. Just the amount of talent. I mean, like, you spend people, you had Reggie White, you had Jim Kelly, you had Doug Flutie, you had Herschel Walker, had all these unbelievable players. And Rick Neuheisel, quarterback for the San Antonio Gunslingers.
Bobby Hebert.
Bobby Hebert.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the last game I covered in Memphis, but I think the league went under because Trump was trying to
move to the spring, move to the fall from the spring.
Yeah, right. And they shut the lost a lawsuit. But the talent in the league was unbelievable. And in Memphis, it was so well accepted. A guy named Billy Donovan owned the team, a cotton merchant from Memphis. He cared about Memphis. He owned the team, and he did it right. He put a lot of money into it. He got good players. Had Pepper Rogers, his coach.
Yes.
Pepper never wore socks to anything, even like formal events. He was just an absolute character. But just looking back, you just realize, Herschel Walker's probably the best college football player I've ever seen. And Washington Generals go play up there, and I remember covering a game up there. I remember coming out of the Meadowlands for the first time and getting a taxi after the game, and the guy said, I can't take you anywhere. I said, why? He goes, I've just been robbed. I have no more money. I said, okay, thank you.
Appreciate that.
But it was just, it was competitive. Sam Mills, Philadelphia.
Philadelphia Stars, Jim Mora.
Yeah, it's just the amount of talent was astonishing.
It really was. It really was. They did, and again, if they would have stayed in the fall, instead of stayed in the spring, they probably would have had some longevity.
Absolutely. Yeah, Steve Young, another guy.
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, the guy who owned the Showboats, he was like, why are we trying to, let's don't do this.
Right.
And they did it, and they got killed. And I think Memphis lost a lot. They averaged like 40,000 a game. People turned out for it. The spring window was perfect.
Yes, it was.
And the talent was such that people wanted to go see it. Any kind of league they've done since then, it's just like.
I think right now the UFL is made for TV.
Yeah.
You look around the stands and you don't see anybody in it. But I remember the USFL, they had fans that went to the games.
Absolutely.
Even here in New Orleans, they fans.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. That was there was.
Yeah,
there was.
So the people showed up. Right. They marketed it well, but they had names in the league you knew.
Yes.
And people showed up.
Right, it did. And of course, one of the big ones was Reggie White.
Reggie White was, yeah. He was.
What was it like covering him?
Just a funny guy. He was so naive. One of the first things he did, like when he got to Memphis, was he went to a clothing store for some clothes, and he's so naive. And this guy sold him like $500 worth of socks, and when Pepper found out, and he was talking, and Reggie was like embarrassed. And Pepper goes, "No, this is great. we're going to have Reggie White sock night. And so the next game they come out, everybody in the stands got a Reggie White sock and they're waving it, and he felt so much better. Like, you know, he was embarrassed.
Right?
Like, and Pepper made him like to a positive. He was just, I mean, the best I've ever seen, the best pass rusher I've ever seen. Yeah. And I mean, Steve Earhart, the guy who was the general manager of the Showboats, who's now president of Liberty Bowl. Even when Philadelphia came calling to get him, he says, I don't think their owner was it Norman Brayman? Or,
Brayman, right.
He goes, I don't think he realized how good he was, you know. And we talk about him, and we tell him, you need to make sure you pay him enough money. He's be the best player you've ever seen as a pass rusher. And he was just always a funny guy. He'd always imitate people. He could imitate Howard Cosell.
Yes.
He just he reminded me of a lot of Shaq's personality, in that, like, always just, no matter how old you got, it was always a big kid, wanted to make you laugh.
Right.
Yeah.
Ron Higgins is with us. He'll be inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame this summer. He is an accomplished author and, of course, again, an award-winning writer. We're going to take a break, hear from my underwriters here. We come back, we'll continue our conversation with Ron Higgins. I'm Eric Asher. Stick around.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Our guest today is Ron Higgins. Again, he will be going to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame this summer. We talked a little bit about your coverage of, again, the USFL. 3 Summer Olympics, where were they?
Seoul, Barcelona, and Atlanta.
How was that?
It was great. It was like all this different, the way, first of all, it was the culture. In Seoul, everything was run very efficiently. You know what I mean? That's just the way they do it over there. But in Barcelona, it was like after a game, like in Seoul, like, you know.
Now that was the Dream Team year, right? 92.
That was unbelievable. Barkley was hilarious. I mean, it was like they weren't going to be beat.
Right.
And they just killed everybody. They were the talk of Barcelona.
It was like rock stars. I mean, I've seen the videos and talk a bit about that. You got a chance to cover them as well?
Got a chance to cover them, and they were all rock stars, and they're just like, they had so much talent just sitting on the bench coming in. Like, you knew they were not going to lose. There's no way they could lose. And I mean, and again, their press conferences were just hilarious because Barkley was Barkley. Yes. And they just everybody kind of sit back and let him roll. I think Jordan kind of looked at it. They just let Barkley roll because they knew he was going to say something hilarious. But then that was a great adventure to go to Barcelona. I mean, I think it was Barcelona. I covered a game. I know Australia played. Luke Longley played. Yeah. And so I wanted to talk to him after a game, and the Olympic media rep says, well, he's not going to come out for like about 34 minutes. He's in drug testing. I said, oh, I'll wait for him. So he comes out 4 minutes later. He goes, hey, mate, can you do me a favor? I said, sure. He goes, I was in drug testing. I was dehydrated. And I've probably drank about 2 6-packs of beer because I'm a little drunk, mate. So if I say something off base, can you kind of clean it up? I said, sure, Luke, I'll do that for you. Barcelona was run like, you never been to a place, they have what they call their siesta in the middle of the day, like at 3:30. Yeah. And so you'd be walking to events and people would be like under trees, like they were gassed in Goldfinger, you know, they're like sleeping, and like you weren't used to that. But Barcelona was more laid back, the way they ran it. You know, we'll get you your box score. We will get it eventually to you. But both cities did a great job of Hills, and Seoul they were so gracious. They wanted to do so well. Yeah. it was a little unnerving. We went to the press dorm where you stay, and they had armed guards with Uzis standing outside, and then had all these young dorm proctors, you know, like kids, which we learned later were trained killers, hand-to-hand combat, everything ever happened. But it was both, and then Atlanta, this was in Atlanta.
That's the year the bomb went off, right?
I was in the press building when the bomb went off next door. And it's like, we're in it's like, boom, the whole building shakes.
Right.
Immediately run outside, and it's like, there's, you know, shrapnel, people laying in the streets hit, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna have about 10 minutes to talk to people before they shut this stuff down. And I ran talking to people, and of course the police shutting it down. So I tried to get back in the press building, and I looked at the front, and they'd shut it off. Like, I can't get back on. I've got a right. Right. And so I went in the parking lot of the building, and I found this elevator, and I said, okay, I know where I'm going. And I came up, and I was in the kitchen of this cafe in the building, and as it turned out, I walk out into the cafe, and the guy, bartender, goes, "Where do you come from?" I said, "I was outside reporting." I said, "I was trying to get back to my where I'm working." I looked in the office, like my door's like 30 feet away, and so I start walking to the door, and this guy goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "Oh, I was just came to use the bathroom. I'm going back in my office." So I got back in the office and worked till like dawn. Wow. But it was like things happen like that. I guess when I tell people, they go, "Why do you do what you still do? I mean, you're almost 70 years old. Why have you done it for 45 years?" I said, "Because you never know. You think you have your day planned out, right? And then it all goes to hell. That's because stuff happens." I said, that's what keeps you going. You never know what's going to happen, how the day is going to turn. You think some days it goes as planned. Right. A lot of times it doesn't go as planned. And I said, that's the beauty of. It's not a 9 to 5 job. It's a 9 to whenever you're finished job. And I said, that's what I always loved about it. Yeah, it's the truth. You can have a show all set up, ready to go, and done, and something breaks, and it's over. Yeah, and you got to go on the fly, right? And that's the adrenaline that carries. It does. I mean, I think every night event I've ever done. Right. You know, if I'm walking out of the press box at 12:30 at night, I'm not getting to sleep like 3 o'clock. I'm still wound from deadline and wound from the event. It's just, and that's never gone away. I mean, you know, you're raised on night football. First day game I ever covered, I went to Shreveport Times, and they sent me to cover Texas A&M and Louisiana Tech. It was like a day game. I'm like, man, this is strange. You know, I'm like, I have time to write. Right. I don't have a deadline to get in for midnight. It was, but it was, yeah.
Long-time Heisman voter. Yeah. How long?
Golly, it's probably 30 years now at least. Yeah. I take it seriously. I mean, you know, and and there's no excuse now not to see everything, because.
How hard was it in the beginning, though? You had to really work hard to.
Yeah, but because, you know, you had to find highlights of people. Right. Like, I mean, guys on the West Coast, and then of course there were until 82, 83. I mean, like a game of the week. You know. But
that's why it was so. That's why I guess we see the voters so polarized in their particular areas of the country, right?
Yeah, but now you can see it on your phone like almost immediately when something happens somewhere. Right. That's the beauty of it. But back then you had the ABC Game of the Week.
Yes, I remember.
And in fact, when I was in college at LSU, I worked for ABC for production for like 3 or 4 games, and one of those was the Woody Hayes bowl game where he punched a player, and I was 20 feet from where it happened. Wow. And they asked, it was just, so many things happened to me that year. And that was the year I had to tell Bear Bryant to get his team off the field, Legion Field, which was always great.
And how did he react to that?
And then I walked away. Right. And he went, and when they went, and my producer goes, what'd you finally tell him? I said, I just told the SOB to get his team off the field. Well, but walking to him, I was like scared, like, sure. You know, like, oh, my guy. But the Woody Hayes thing, they assigned me to the Ohio State sideline. They didn't have sideline reporters, and they had production assistants, and they would relay injuries or whatever to the truck, and they would hear them. So they didn't have sideline people. So that happens right in front of me. I'm like, it's like where that TV screen is right there. And I'm standing on top of it, and he lifts up the linebacker, and he hits him with the uppercut. And the linebacker catches the intercepts the ball. He falls to Willie Seaton. He's looking for the referee. So he got the ball. He's looking for the referee. And Willie thinks he's taunting. He grabs it like it and hits with the uppercut. I'm like, and then his assistants come to get him. He's hitting him with a clipboard. So the producer goes, "What's going on?" And the problem was, I think it was Keith Jackson, and I'm thinking who did, maybe it was Boyles was doing.
Yeah.
They weren't looking at the monitor. They were looking at the field. And from the field where it happened, you couldn't see from the press box. And so the producer asked me, "What happened?" I said, "Woody Hayes just hit that Clemson player with the uppercut." He goes, "What?" He goes, he grabbed him with the uppercut and hit him. He goes, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, I'm positive. I saw it." Now he's hitting his assistant coaches. And so the producer wasn't going to trust a 22-year-old kid, I guess. And so there was a delay in them reporting it. And the thing is, I remember the director going, "Replay," and there was nothing. "Replay." And he goes, "Replay." And he hit a replay guy, goes, "We got a problem, it's not working." And so they had to wait like 10 or 15 minutes for them to, the Jacksonville TV station was taping it for tape delay.
Okay.
And they had to get it microwaved back to them, and that's when they played it. But most of America thought there was a cover-up when that happened. It was when the cover-up, one, they didn't believe me, and two, the replay didn't work, so they thought it was a cover-up, but they eventually showed. But I remember the first thing I did, being like sports writer jeans, after I put my headset down, went with all the Ohio State beat writers to the Ohio State dressing room, and all of them were like, "Oh, he's done, he's gone." And we were standing there when the Ohio State president walked through, and I'm like, he wasn't happy, and they were like, "He's fired." But yeah, that was a great moment.
That's amazing. That's one of the greatest moments. I mean, I can remember it.
Yeah, and it's like, but remember, they told me, "Go, okay, you got Ohio State sideline. You know, just don't let Woody see you. Hates TV people."
Right.
I said, but the night before we shot starting lineups underneath the stands. It was raining, and Woody was standing there next to all Ohio State players, and he was like, "Get the gum out your mouth," So last thing, the director said, "We need to do Coach Hayes." "Hey, Coach Hayes, we need to shoot you now." "Yeah, a lot of people like to shoot me, wouldn't they?" I said, "Okay, thank you."
Speaking of coaches, you got a chance to interview Bo Ryan, the LSU coach who died in the plane crash. Talk about it. You were one of the only reporters to do that, right?
Yeah, Bo Ryan was. I interviewed Bo before the plane crash, and then the day it happened, I mean, I had an interview set up with Greg Williams, who was a defensive coordinator, and he's the guy who put Bo on the plane in Shreveport, and so I woke up that day. I didn't know what happened. I didn't listen to the radio. I went straight to LSU football office. I walked in, everybody's crying. I said, "Man, I'm like, it's like 1970. I'm like 23 years old." And I said, "And what happened?" Bo's plane went down, and everybody's just sobbing. And I said, "Oh my God!" And I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "I was here to see Greg Williams." And he goes, "Well, he's back there. He just got back." And he drove all night from Shreveport. I mean, he went stayed at a Shreveport Airport hotel, and then he got a call like 3 o'clock in the morning, like, "Where are you?" He goes, and they discovered he was alive. He didn't get on the plane with him because he wanted to drive back. And Bo wanted to get back to Baton Rouge because he wanted to see somebody, I think, in Jackson, Mississippi the next day.
Right.
And so I walk in Greg's office, and he goes, "Hey, Ron," and I didn't know what to even say. And
you were 23.
23. And I never had anything like that before. And I said, all I said was, "Greg, what happened?" And just had a tape recorder and just let it roll. And it turned to be the first place writing award ever won. And it was just, and the thing was, when the Bo Ryan thing came out, was it 35 years later?
Yeah.
I tracked down Greg Williams again. And I think I wrote for NOLA.com, and it was like tracking and just like reliving that all over again.
Yes.
And it's like he goes and he told me some things I didn't know before. But it was great to like and then we did the ESPN thing came out. It was emotional. I got broken up thinking about it because it was just he would have been great, and just again, I was lucky to be. Unfortunately, lucky the guy died, but in the right place at the right time, and that was pretty memorable. Yeah.
Author of 6 books.
Yeah.
What are the books about?
Yeah, I'll tell you something. Two of them are about everything they're kind of like a farmer's tour guide of the SEC for Missouri fans and for A&M fans when they came in.
Right.
I did one on the Grizzlies, Tales of the Memphis Grizzlies. It's funny because Shane Battier wrote my forward, and right before the book came out, they traded him. And so I'm watching the draft. I'm like, they traded my forward. And the guy goes, maybe you're a forward. I said, no, he wrote the book. My forward's my book. And then I wrote a book with Joe Dean Jr. on Dixie basketball camp. It's a Joe Dean Senior's basketball camp, going like more than 50 years now. And I went to the original ones in Baton Rouge on the outside courts on Perkins Road. I was very close with the Joe Dean family. They lived 2 streets in back of me. Right. And I became like an honorary family member. So I got the full Joe Dean. And Joe used to love the fact that he goes, you can do me better than me. Yeah, you know, and I was part of their family and part of their basketball camp. And basketball camp was so many great memories. I mean, outdoor courts in Baton Rouge in the summer, was just brutal, but it was a lot of good memories there.
Honored by National Sports Media Association as Writer of the Year in Tennessee in 2001, Writer of the Year in Louisiana 2015. In 2008, while working with the Memphis Commercial Appeal, was president of the Football Writers Association of America. You co-founded the Tennessee Sports Writers Association. You also, again, 10-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year, inducted into the Tennessee Sports Writers Hall of Fame in 2011.
Yeah, it was. I spent a lot of time in Tennessee, and I mean, the best thing about the job that I did was I got to cover the whole SEC. And so I got an appreciation for every school. And I knew the personnel at every school, established relationships at every school. And so subsequently, talking about my football writers presidency, I was able, I think I'm the only writer still to ever, they have the SEC spring business meetings in Destin, and they have all the football coaches meet there. They invited me in to speak to them about, I'm talking about access. Right. And the funniest thing, so I asked myself, let me ask you y'all this question. Everybody was there, Spurrier, everybody was there. I said, why don't you allow us to speak to freshmen? You know, you have this rule that you can't talk to. I said, even if like play like, you know, of course, Nick, I'll tell you why. Because when I was at Michigan State, Pascal Burr shot his mouth off, you know, and we got our butt kicked by Michigan because they used him. And Mark Rick goes, yeah, you know, Nick's right. You know, your players need a lot of time. They need time to mature to talk to media. Spurrier, I know about that. I got a lot of seniors here, dumbasses. And you see Saban's like, he just blew my point completely. Right. Spurrier's my favorite coach to cover.
Is he really? Why?
Unfiltered. Funny. I mean, even in defeat. Right. They lost at Mississippi State one year to Jackie Sherrill, and they came on the field and tore the goalposts down. And after the game, Spurrier goes, I know why they want to do that. They need to wait till they beat a good team before they do that. So the next year they played in Gainesville, and I think it was 56-0 Florida. And like late in the game, Spurrier throws for a touchdown pass deep. And Sebastian says, Coach, what was, you know, why? He goes, I'll tell you why. Last year we were in Starkville. Remember that big celebration after the game? I had a student manager down the field. He was guarding our equipment. He got cold cocked by a fan. He goes, that touchdown pass is for our student manager. He was just the best. And he always told me this, and he was true to his word. He told me, he goes, I'm going to retire. The day I'm going to retire is the day that I don't think I'm getting through to my team. I'm not doing them any good. He goes, it could be like in season. If I don't think I'm not getting through, and he was
true to his word, right?
Yeah, 2 days I think I did by LSU in that South Carolina game. He quit. Yeah, and he was true to his word. I'm like, how can he do that? I'm like, he told me he was going to do that. Yeah, and I love him. He just he was always funny and always still, you know, just and even though he and Phil Fulmer like they had this love-hate relationship. Yes, I think they were actually pretty decent friends, and their wives were good friends, and I had appreciation for that they both built winners. That's why I always get a kick out of people like pit coaches against each other, and then like, well, you know, they must not like each other, like Don Staley and Kim Mulkey. Yeah. Kim Mulkey's never said one bad word about Donstead, and vice versa. And there's appreciation there that you build winning programs and you maintain them for all those years. There's appreciation between coaches for that. I think that people don't understand.
You got deep roots at LSU.
Yeah.
What is it like to see how this program has blossomed over the last decade or so?
It's unbelievable. I mean, I just go back, just this facilities. I mean, when I was a kid back at Old Alex Box with this bad wooden seats and nobody went to games, and then before they beat Barney Moore track stadium, the cinder track, cow pallets, and for them to add stuff bit by bit.
Right.
And then I just feel like it really turned when Nick came to town and kind of demanded better facilities, and Skip helped them fundraise stuff to get it.
Yes.
And it kind of raised the level of standard of everything, and then LSU started asking for a little more money on donations and started getting it, and they improved the facilities. And then I always think it also took another jump when the SEC network came along, but that poured more TV money into, and so you had more, and so you had more exposure for all the sports, and you had more money to spend for all the sports. And so people go, well, how come every sport LSU loses money but football and maybe men's basketball sometime and baseball? I said, you realize how much money it costs to run everything? I mean, guys have scholarships. That costs the university. That costs them money. Yes. It's been amazing watching it, and especially the first time I walked in the new football complex with the new dressing rooms.
From where it was to where it is?
Yeah, it's just like, I remember walking into Tiger Stadium dressing rooms where they had Tiger Stadium. It was like walking in a little rat hole, but the rats would come running out.
Yeah.
And you walk in that place across the street now, and it's the locker room where they could sleep in their lockers.
Yeah, right.
And you're just, it's amazing. It really is.
Nickname Mad Dog. How you got that?
When I was like 10 years old, they had this Baton Rouge newspaper for teenagers called What's Happening. And so I want to write a football column. I said, I got to get a tough nickname. And I started going through like mafia nicknames, and I found Mad Dog. I'll put Mad Dog.
Right.
It had nothing to do with Mike Curtis, Mad Dog. It was Mad Dog, and it just stuck with me, and people just...
Still today call you Mad Dog?
Oh yeah, to today. I mean, I can be like in a stadium or arena somewhere walking. I hear somebody go, "Hey, dog!" And I'll turn around like somebody I know.
Right.
They still call me Mad Dog. Yeah, and
so nothing to do with you on the court, though.
Well, I play that way.
You play physical.
I play physical. I play really intense. And people, I guess I kind of lived with that nickname there.
Yeah, there you go.
But it wasn't until like the past few years I found these Mad Dog caps. There's a collection of them. But I take pride in that nickname, and people still call me that. It's okay. I'm good with that.
Right. You mentioned favorite coach to cover. Favorite player?
Wow.
Because there's been a lot.
Been a lot. Joe Burrow, one.
Okay.
Always great with the media. Always, win or lose, just great to talk to. When he got his pants pulled down at Mississippi State and sack, and tell me, I think that's great because I think my whole family was here. Maybe my grandmother. and he goes, yeah, full moon over Starkville. Before that season, they were at the Manning Passing Academy, like in July, and he goes, we're all standing there. He goes, we're going to score 50 a game. And we're like,
I remember that. And I remember saying on this, I thought he had been out drinking the night before.
And we're like, Joe, we're going to score 50 a game. And I said, so you got to have to throw. Like, oh, we're going to throw the ball. We're going to score 50 a game. And I've never. I mean, that's the season LSU fans have been like waiting for forever. It was like a dream for them. Every time it was like Maravich. Every time he got the ball, he thought he was going to score. Every time Joe Burrow got the ball, he thought he was going to score. And even when the other team scored, they came back and scored almost like 70% of the time. But remember, at the end of that year, I can't remember their punter's name. The guy was like 28 years old. And he was really close with Burrow. And before the playoff game, he asked Burrow, he goes, I think we're going to be all right. And Burrow goes, we're going to put 60 on him. He goes, Joe, what? He goes, no, we're going to put 60. He goes, Joe, it's Oklahoma. He goes, no, we're going to put 60 on them. The most astounding half football I've ever seen in a college game. And he is probably one of my favorite guys to cover. Shane Battier on the pro level was great to cover because always great perspective. And he was just like, he had this deal. If you've ever been in like an NBA locker room, you have to wait for every guy to get, like, they'll take a shower. And if, if you're like Kobe, he would go like hide in the shower.
He would, yeah.
And all the West Coast guys were like, what is he hiding for? We're not on deadline here. We got plenty of time. We're going to wait him out. But Shane Battier, he had this thing where he'd come in after a game and he'd sit in front of his locker, we'd walk in. He had this old-time alarm clock he'd wind up with a bell on top. He goes, okay. And he had this thing, he goes, okay, you got 10 minutes. When the bell goes off, we're done. And so he'd sit there in his uniform. Right. And it was great because you could immediately get quotes. All these other guys, they'd wait, they shower. And he was just beautiful. He was great to cover. Hubie Brown was awesome to cover. It was like getting a basketball lesson every time you
every time you turn the TV on now, it's the basketball lesson.
He was just great to talk to. And talking to Grizzly players, he goes like Hubie gives these lessons in practice, and we don't know, and a lot of them don't know who we're referring to. Like one practice we had a fast break, we throw the ball to the guy on the wing and he hits him in his head. And he goes, stop. You gotta see the man with the ball in the middle. 1954 NBA Finals, Paul Harrison, okay? Paul Harrison's in the wing. All he's got to do is catch the ball, they're going again. He hits him in the head because he's not looking at the guy in the middle. He's like, feel like Stromae Swift going, what's he talking about? He was just wonderful.
You have been a mentor to so many. Who was your mentor?
Oh God, I had so many. Paul Manasseh was a mentor. He was great. Mike McKenzie was with the Morning Advocate for a year. He was a mentor. Marvin West was a mentor with the Knoxville News Sentinel, with the Scripps Howard News Service. He was a mentor. And I told people, it's nice to have mentors, but also tell young sports writers, how do you learn how to have a style? I said, you read. Right. You read people. I mean, I loved Dan Jenkins. I love Rick Riley. I love people that make it fun to read, but when you read them, you understand what they're talking about. They don't speak in sports jargon. People say, what's your style? I said, my style is like, it's like I'm sitting in the bar next to you talking to you, and I'm telling you some story. So that's my style. Yeah. Incredible career. I appreciate it. And it's not over. No, it's still going, and people go, when are you going to retire? I said, I'll still, as long as somebody will have me to write, I'll still write. I said, I feel good. I feel really good, so yeah. Still doing, and folks don't know, you do a lot of extra in television and movie production as well? That's been a blast, yeah. I've filmed a lot of stuff in New Orleans, a different series, gone to places in New Orleans. I didn't know New Orleans had like a museum, art museum near the fairgrounds somewhere around there. Yeah. They filmed Leverage there one day. That was interesting, but that's been fun to like, all of a sudden you're different people, and you're being robbed at an art auction one thing, and the next thing you're in a wrestling movie, The Iron Claw. That was fun. So yeah, it's a nice diversion from sports writing, but I still love a good story. Yeah, and you know how to tell a good story. I appreciate it. You really do. Congratulations on your induction to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Well deserved, my friend. Now you're in the Tennessee Sports Writers Hall of Fame, Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. What a great career, and it continues. And thank you for joining us on the program today. Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. I watch the show, and I love it. Appreciate it very much. Ron will be again inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame on January the 22nd. Hope you guys can check it out. Thank you, Ron. Sure. Ron Higgins with us again, award-winning journalist, author, Renaissance man. There you go. Thanks so much for tuning in. There's a QR code on your screen right now. We'll take you to my website, ericasher.com, or the WLAE-TV YouTube page. Remember, again, you can check us out. Again, so many ways to check our program out. Now all you got to do is set your DVR on your favorite time slot. You'll never miss a show. WLE, WLAE-TV 2, Pelican Sports Television, and of course, WLAE-TV YouTube channel. Also on my social media platforms as well. Remember, you catch me on the radio, 106.1 The Ticket. You can listen live at ericasher.com. 106.1 The Ticket has an app now. Also, again, you can listen on 106.1 The Ticket website. Anchor Spotify is where you can find our podcast. And of course, we want to thank the underwriters who make this show possible, each and every one of them. I want to thank the staff here at WLAE who make our show possible, do a great job producing. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, also Danielle Wick, and the best director on the planet. That would be William Hill. I'm Eric Asher for Ron Higgins. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.